What?
That was the worst countdown of all
It
time.
was. I was in the middle of laughing. I'm sorry.
Shut up! Shut up! You're burning daylight. Okay, so we're in the Aztec Lounge of Mirage. It is a very popular part of the club, which is quite funny because we just kind of made it up on the spot, really. Here it is, though, and standing around the fountain, she's finally finished knocking on the walls and seems to be quite satisfied that she knows where it's coming from, that blood anyway. And she's staring directly at the fountain, looking very, very puzzled and adopting various thinking poses with her hands and her head, some of which remind you a little bit of her brother, maybe, or maybe that's just you imposing those mannerisms. It's hard really to tell. People have started to clear out the Aztec Lounge. There's still a kindred flooding in and out, but she's cocking her head and then looking and.
Mason will walk over and kind of just rest up on the fountain. Good evening.
Good evening, Esther Mandelbaum.
Mason Cassidy. Pleasure to meet you.
I've heard that name floating around a little bit.
Oh no. Bad things, I'm sure.
Only a little bit. I wasn't aware of anything good or bad. Now you've made me slightly worried.
Don't be. I haven't seen you around before.
That depends. When did you come into the blood?
Oh, about 3 years ago.
That's why I haven't been in Crucible for 13 years.
Ah, okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Where have you been?
All over the place. Most recently, it was a tour of America. I went as far north of Chicago, as far south as the border, but I couldn't get any further than that.
Why not?
It's very difficult to cross the border at night in a box when you don't trust the people carrying you. I didn't fancy walking. It's a very long way in the desert.
Yes, absolutely. Well, welcome back, I guess. How long have you been back?
Welcome back to
what? The city.
Oh.
How long have you been back?
Oh, very, very. Only a few weeks.
What clan are you, if I might ask?
There is a politer way to ask that, but I'll humor you, of course.
Sorry.
I understand it is your youth speaking. You don't strike me as a member of the First Estate.
I'm not.
Well, there you are.
Yes.
Not a bad idea to pick up on some terms of decorum from them. It buys you a lot more friends than you think. I am a member of the Clan of Shadows.
Ah. Always a pleasure to meet another member of the family.
I did wonder. You have an inquisitive nature about you.
Yes. Well, it's you're staring quite intently at the fountain.
Because it's a marvel of vicious engineering, isn't it?
Where does the blood come from?
Not sure. She's really looking at it. There's a pump system. Of course, blood is odd substance to be pumping. To get such a prodigious quantity, it's quite a disturbing thought, really. I'd quite like to see if the Willy Wonka of this establishment could explain it, but I'm a little hesitant to ask. He seems very eccentric.
He's certainly eccentric, but Will is proud of his. I think he's very proud of his what he owns and what is his and what he builds.
I know. I was a part-time patron to his old establishment a few times. We didn't speak, really. I was there more out of curiosity and to socialize than anything else. This is completely different. Completely.
Well, I have to say I'm not that accustomed to the clubbing scene myself, but it certainly seems on the grander scale.
It's better, I think, when you get into Europe. It's all pay limitation up here, all pomp. There's more, I suppose, truth to it. Of course, we're in no state to go on a sunbathing, sunny holiday as we are now, but still, a missed opportunity, perhaps, then in life.
Indeed.
travel as much as you can, Mason.
Yes, I'm
Best
afraid
thing to do.
I didn't get to travel for pleasure much in my life.
For pleasure? Oh, did you do a job that forced you to get around?
Yes, I served in the military for a number of years.
Oh, what type of duty did you have?
Pardon?
My uncle was in the military. He fought in the First World War.
Ah, I didn't. I fought in Afghanistan for a few years.
Aha, that kerfuffle.
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, nasty business.
Didn't go nearly as well as they expected. Still feeling the well, repercussions.
Yeah, unfortunately. But
Funny how things can happen so far away and yet ripple back, ping
yeah,
out, draw people back in. Like what drew me back, for example. If you've been paying attention to plant business, I'm sure you'll be aware of my brother's passing. That would be Bartholomew Lane then.
it was your brother. I'm sorry.
Hmm. Did you do it?
No,
Then there's nothing to be sorry for.
I could have done more on that night.
Really. How much do you know about the circumstances?
I was the one who found him.
Ah,
He hunters. They, I guess, were suspicious of him, and when they launched an attack, they attacked every one that they suspected of being kindred. I guess they caught him by surprise. And as soon as I found out they were going to the university, I rushed over, but too late.
it's a frightening and humbling situation to be persecuted, to be hunted for something one cannot change, isn't it?
Yeah.
Were you targeted during that long night, as I've heard it called?
I was made aware that they knew who I was and they knew that I was one, but I wasn't targeted per se because I was rushing towards them, trying to stop them.
Ah, I
So
think it's a lesson not to get too carried away. Things like this. There's only so many layers of secrecy that separate us from, well, the sun.
yeah, they are more inquisitive than I think we gave them credit for.
They, do you mean the things we used to be? Or do you mean in reference to an organization rather than a species?
I think the organization. Well, we all, I think, I'd like to think that most people are acutely aware of how smart humans can be, considering we were all one at some point. But this organization, it started off as nothing more than a small rabble. I think they were underestimated for too long, and they got too much on us.
Whose fault was that?
I don't think you can put that down to a single individual. I think it was the entire core.
I think you might have already done that. I'm considering hosting a little memoriam for my brother. Still making sure that the current proprietors of the university are all right with it, but I feel as though bringing family would be best. I'm still trying to weigh up what exactly has happened with Bartholomew's professional replacement. I'm struggling to understand exactly how he. I've met him, of course. I've introduced myself. He seems capable, if a little slimy, in the nicest way. He does seem a little slimy, doesn't he?
Who he is, in the nicest way.
Mm. I wonder what is nice and slimy. An interesting species of slug,
Well, if you'd like to know, from what I've gathered, he was able to buy enough of the clan to get him the votes. We were at the last Elysium. Her Majesty asked us to democratically elect a new Priscus. And from what I can tell, the only reason why the Ordo has the university once more is because of Isaac.
Still trying to puzzle that around in my head. Just quite.
He had a boon from the prince for eliminating a kindred who was being hunted. Blood hunt.
Eliminating?
Yes. Nasty business.
Regardless, I think it would be well for us to commemorate Bartholomew. Everybody seems to just be moving on very quickly, but I suppose they're all more pressing matters than a funeral.
I was actually considering doing something very similar, so I'm glad to see I'm not the only person.
It's a tragedy when a kindred who dedicated themselves so absolutely to the preservation of their ethics and their work. Bart never stopped working, you know. He was always studying and writing and trying to contribute to the body of knowledge without taking any of the credit. Some of us, myself included, have published since under fake names using proxies, just to try somehow to gain some satisfaction. But it's not very satisfying, not in the same way. He did it selflessly. The true pioneer. That's what I'm going to miss.
Me too. And you can see that Esther will be able to see that Mason's kind of almost still processing a bit of that grief in his face.
He meant quite a lot to you.
When I was embraced, it was not. I had to acclimatize, so I kind of shutted myself off from kindred society for a few years. And he brought me back in, and I worked very closely with him from then until his death. Yeah, he did mean a lot to me. But I guess that kind of sentiment doesn't seem to matter much anymore.
I think it does, to some. The ones that knew him, that didn't just see him as a pawn.
I'm glad. If there's anything I can do to help with the arrangements for this, please let me know.
I absolutely will. Right now, it's just getting on premises. As we know, my sire can be quite possessive.
Yes. So I've discovered.
Discovered, not heard. First-hand experience.
Well,
it's okay. I don't like him very much either. You can be open.
I haven't had much interaction with him, but yes, he's very intense.
Cold.
Yes.
Cold, that's what he is. Oh, is that so? Really? And Gojo himself has just walked around the corner and Esther cranes slowly to look at him. You wouldn't describe yourself as cold. My temperature is perpetually slightly below room. Yes, I think I'm cold in some sense.
Mason would
Everyone
chuckle.
is.
Mason would chuckle a little bit at that.
Every one of us is. Yes, I understand that. And then she starts speaking to him in a language you don't get. I'll let you do an intelligence academics to see if you figure out what they're talking in.
All right. Intelligence academics. Look at that. Two successes.
It's Hebrew,
Okay.
which I don't think Mason speaks, but you might just about recognize enough of it.
He does not.
They have a brief exchange. At one point, then Gerjo tilts his head a little bit and then leans in directly into Esther's personal space. She doesn't budge. She stays directly where she is. And then eventually they finish speaking and she says, well, I can't really say no to that. But we'll need to go through the proper channels, won't we? Yes. Why did you switch to Hebrew? Because I felt like speaking out loud for once. Ah, Mason. Do you
That's
think
all
we
right.
should keep it family only?
I think there are many in the city who worked with him and knew him, but I think there should at least be a portion of it that is just for the family.
Then I'll see it arranged. Evening. And he walks off. Don't think Bart would be very happy to have him there.
No, I don't think so either, but I don't think there's any way we can avoid that. It's going to be held in the university.
I wouldn't be so sure.
Well, if you have ideas, I'm.
What do you mean? She looks back over in his direction. Wouldn't do anything of the sort. Can I take a number?
Yes, of course, and Mason will give her his number.
The Herald's done a very good job of keeping me informed. Did you give her a business card or just tell her the number?
I'd just tell her a number.
Okay, yeah. Well, she doesn't note it down or anything. She just seems to memorize it. The Herald's done a fantastic job. It's just nice to hear from the horse's mouth.
It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you, Esther.
What rank were you in the army?
Sergeant.
Sergeant Cassidy. You sound like a gunfighter from the Wild West. That's how I'm going to remember you.
Well, thank you. Nothing quite so extravagant, but thank you. And just Mason will do.
Of course, partner. Don't worry about that. And she ambles off and turns around after starting to walk off, and then gives you a bit of a wave,
Mason
and then
will
blunders
give her
into another group.
Mason will give her a smile and wave back, and then he'll kind of turn and look at the fountain and just kind of. I think after that conversation, he just kind of be in a bit of a reminisce, a bit about Bart, and then kind of just to himself for a bit, and he'll just stand there. Unless anyone else wants to sneak up on him in this very personal, private moment, that is where we'll end it.